And welcome back, Mobile Mornings here on FM Talk 106.5, and it's time for Law 251 with Tobias and Comer Law. Bryan Comer, kind enough to join us in studio this morning. Hey, Bryan.
Hey, Dalton.
Good to see you again. I know pretty fired up. Football's back here.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Great time of year.
Probably should leave that there.
Probably should. Man, a lot to talk about with you today, as always, and appreciate you coming in last time, breaking down some of the Supreme Court rulings. There will be many more where that came from.
Absolutely.
So that and plenty more. Also looking forward to getting you in to talk some politics and political news, really, going forward. But let's talk a little bit about some accidents and trucking accidents, semi-truck accidents to be particular here, because at Tobias and Comer Law, you guys work obviously so many different types of injury cases, and these are cases that I imagine result in some pretty big-time injuries, some of these big trucking accidents.
Yeah, they do, and, it's something that we take very seriously. Anytime somebody's been catastrophically injured, whether it be from a defective product like we've talked about before, or from some other instance, but here, unfortunately, given the size of some of the trucks and the speeds that they're driving, particularly on the interstate highways, if there is a collision, that's just a lot of force that then translates, into the person's vehicle that gets hit. And and that's not to say that most of the folks are bad people or any of that kind of stuff. I mean, these crashes happen. I mean, we have accidents all the time, on airport or Dolphin or wherever of cars. Well, the same thing applies with whether it be inattention or somebody not doing what they're supposed to do, following the rules. They can cause these crashes and unfortunately result in serious injuries.
Yeah, I mean, you think if you're on the football field and you get hit by a lineman running full speed, it's going to hurt more than when you get hit by a cornerback that's running
right.
full speed, and the same goes with the mass of these vehicles. But I was thinking, and you were talking about it too, a lot of these truck drivers, they drive for someone,
Sure.
part of a larger network, usually their carrier, and I imagine they have teams of lawyers maybe that are ready to roll. Is that kind of how this works for some companies, some trucking companies? If they know that one of their vehicles has gotten into an accident, they have a certain protocol they're already following.
Absolutely. And it's not just the attorneys, but so they'll have accident reconstructionists, they'll have investigators that go out to the scene literally as the debris is being cleaned up while the vehicles are still there. And we've talked about this a lot in terms of responding quickly to a case, or when what to do in the event somebody's been in a crash. Well, here, that's taken really to the next level, because little details matter at the scene. Skid marks, for instance. You can learn so much from skid marks. How far were the skid marks? How far back were they before the impact? That can tell you the speed. That can tell you how the vehicle, how the brakes were applied. Was it something that they were slowing down, or were they really getting on them? Mm-hmm. Which would usually be the latter to leave the skid marks. Glass debris that's on that's left there at the scene. All of those things together really paint a picture from an evidentiary standpoint of what happened. And so what we do, and definitely what the trucking companies do in the event of a wreck, is they go document every bit of that. And so if we can't do something comparable, and it's never going to be the night of, and I'm not saying to get calls from the scene of the wreck or anything like that, but if you can do it within short order, that evidence is still there. Witnesses can be talked to, and the evidence collected, and then to determine, hey, is this something that we can do? And so that's part of the beauty of what we do on our end. And we've talked about the contingency fee agreement before, where you don't have to pay anything up front, only if there's a recovery. Mm-hmm. And so what that does is we advance those costs, and so that really puts the customer, puts the client on an even playing field with this company that has, an entire army of people it sends out.
Yeah, I mean, you've said it so many times before, but the earlier that Tobias and Comer can get out to a site where something happened, all that information you just laid out really kind of paints the picture and helps at least the person that comes to you fight on a more of a level playing field with some of these companies. I mean, you hear people say, this ain't my first rodeo.
Right.
So many of these trucking companies, they've been through this, done that. I would imagine most of the time someone who's involved in an accident with a big truck, probably their first time dealing with something like that.
Sure. Yeah, it is. And, I actually talked with someone this morning, and it was her first time going through a different type of situation. But she said, this is the first time I've ever talked to a lawyer. And folks don't really understand what's going to happen. And, a lot of times you can get a phone call after the crash from the carrier or from whether it be the insurance company or the trucking company, and try to, offer pennies on the dollar or something like that. And you think, oh, well, man, that's a really good result. That's really nice of them or something like that. But it's typically tied to a release, which then basically lets them walk from any further responsibility. And if you've got to have multiple surgeries or you've got to have, care going forward, it might not be enough to take care of it. And so those are the things that we look at. But also, when we're collecting this evidence and when we're doing our due diligence on this, it's just that. We're figuring out what happened. Is what the client or potential client said that happened, is that what happened? Or, did they maybe remember it wrong? And in fact, they pulled out in front of the 18-wheeler and it's not the 18-wheeler's fault. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of the due diligence that we do, is to determine, okay, what happened and then what are the available remedies or what options are there, if any.
Yeah, a real way to level the playing field,
exactly,
as it were. Talking with Bryan Comer from Tobias and Comer Law for another edition of Law 251. And whenever, and we talk about accidents all the time on Mobile Mornings, obviously it's a big part of the morning is letting people know where accidents are and what to avoid. And then when you get a really bad wreck, of course, we're in here praying and hoping for people that are involved in those. And usually when an 18-wheeler is involved, a semi-truck, people go, man, I hope that's not bad. You don't always say that about when a couple vehicles have gotten into a fender bender, but generally because of the size of them, seen some pretty catastrophic injuries from wrecks like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, and we've talked about some of those in the past, and again, it's just the nature of physics, really, because you've got that much mass moving at a particular speed, and that's going to cause a certain amount of damage. Even a glancing blow can be much more serious and much more impactful than the same kind of impact from a F-150 or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, and that's something that we're aware of every time we meet with somebody who's had something really terrible happen to them or a loved one. This is the worst day of their life, and this is the worst thing that's happened. And so, that's one of the things that we do is take that from them, at least the legal worry. What are we supposed to do? Who are we supposed to talk to? That's something that we take on ourselves in their place so that they can work on healing and getting better and hopefully getting back to where they were.
Yeah. So some bullet points from this, and it's not just with trucking accidents, but really if you've been involved in an injury case here and you're looking at your options, the quicker you can get the team out there, the better, like
Sure.
you said, because you can get on the scene, figure out what's going on. And when you have these companies, like a lot of these trucking companies, you mentioned that they're wanting to settle and get this thing done and over with so they can move on. Meanwhile, the victim in a case might not realize exactly what their long-term life outlook is. Right?
Yeah, that's true. And then, unfortunately, another reality of it is in the event of something really bad happening, is people on my side of the aisle, that is people representing injured people, sometimes will call these people who've been injured and say, hey, we can do this. And mm-hmm. So if you're we've talked about this before, when you're looking for a lawyer, you want to know, okay, is this somebody who's just going to do basically exactly what the insurance company's doing and try to flip this for some, quick payday. Yeah. And they're not doing right by the client. And so you want to make sure that when you're hiring somebody, and this is something we take pride in, are you going to have them throughout? Are they equipped to handle your case from the moment it first walks in the door until the very last appeal is taken, if it goes all the way to a verdict? And you just got to be careful when you're dealing with that, because and I actually saw this. My parents were in a wreck up in Tuscaloosa years ago, and shortly after the wreck, they started getting letters in the mail from lawyers saying, hey, hire me to do this. And for folks who haven't gone through this, or maybe they don't know anybody who's a lawyer, I'm the first person who's been a lawyer in my family. it can be overwhelming or seem like, okay, well, I've got to go with this person or that person. But, be mindful when you're hiring somebody of who it is that you're hiring and what it is that you're hiring them to do.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback on that and talk about why I love Tobias and Comer so much. I mean, already you guys are good people, so you wouldn't be running that game to get that quick payday.
No way.
But when you're local like you are, and when you've been working from the same office down on Dauphin Street for so long, that's just something you can't do. You can't run a game like that and then go see the same people in the community at church or out to eat or wherever. You guys call Mobile home, this area. You've been representing it for years, so you treat the people right, but you do it the right way.
Absolutely. I live here. Desi and Lacey's families live here. We're from here. My parents still live in the community, and this is something we take very seriously. And not like I've said before, not every case is a case that we can necessarily take. But when we do, we're all in, and we're going to help you to the fullest extent we can.
Well, I tell you, that's evident when you look at the reviews for Tobias and Comer Law. Some of the clients you've had in the past, they vouch for you, 5 stars. And just the fact that you guys have been in business as long as you have. The website's great, tobiascomerlaw.com, and I know you have a bunch of information up there, like what to do if you're in a accident with a big truck, but so much more is there as well, including Law 251, our archives here. So tobiascomerlaw.com, great place to go. And I know people can call for a free consultation anytime of the day, too.
Absolutely. 251-432-5001.
Well, good stuff as always, Bryan. Appreciate you coming in, and hopefully it won't be that long. We'll get you back in to talk maybe some updates from the courts here soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dalton.
All right, Bryan Comer with Tobias and Comer Law and Law 251. Again, check this interview out. Once it comes out, we'll put it at tobiascomerlaw.com. You can see so much more of the great information they have there, including information about Tobias and Comer Law. Coming up next, the Jeff Poor Show. He is on the way. That does it for Mobile Mornings. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 6.